Good evening, I'm Jess De Los Santos. The big stories tonight. It's live, all right. State-run networks assure the President's fifth State of the Nation address will be aired with no edits. But there's already an alternative venue if the batasan becomes unconducive. In a pre-SONA officials, top security officials throw their weight behind the implementation of the Anti-Terror Law, even without a set of implementing rules and regulations. But petitions against the measure keep on coming. This time, ex-justices ask the High Court to scrap the anti-terror law for unconstitutionality. And in a bid to dispel doubts over the deaths of inmates due to COVID-19, Bureau of Corrections officials released files proving the deaths of the high-profile inmates. And can gossips be put to good use? Seems so for a regional police office in the Visayas. They propose putting to task gossip mongers as contact tracers. We begin tonight with cabinet secretaries insisting that the government is ready to enforce the anti-terrorism law even without implementing rules and regulations or IRR. But critics are saying, how can they make sure it will be properly implemented when the government itself is inconsistent in implementing basic health protocols? Maricel Halili with the story.
After the Interior Department urged the uniform implementation of health protocols among local government units, the Justice Department this time insists the government has been implementing the rule of law consistently 5 months into quarantine restrictions. This despite the fact that government officials who reportedly violated community quarantine protocols remain in their posts, while civilians have been arrested for simply not wearing face masks.
I wouldn't really say that there is an inconsistent application of the rule of law. It just so happened that a greater number of those arrested came from the lower income groups.
And although the timing seems to be off due to the pandemic, the administration insists the implementing rules and regulations of the Anti-Terrorism Law should be created soon. National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon said an IRR serves as an operating manual. While they acknowledged this, both Interior Secretary Eduardo Año and Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana said the lack thereof does not preclude them from implementing the law.
Kung nakadingit yung buhay ng ating mga mamamayan, we have to implement the law. Now, kung wala naman malalakihang terrorist threat, we can wait for the IRR.
We could wait for the IRR, but if there is a terroristic action now, we are going to use it.
This was also the advice of the U.S. Homeland Security, says Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin, who drafted the previous version of the anti-terrorism bill.
It cannot be abused. It can only be misused by law enforcement authorities. The penalties on law enforcement officers are horrendous. And you know what? This is a vast improvement on the version I introduced in Congress in my time.
There are now 11 petitions before the Supreme Court questioning the measure's constitutionality. For News 5, Maricel Halili, we are One News.
The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, or the CBCP, is standing by its statement, raising alarm in the passage of the Anti-Terrorism Law. In an online forum, CBCP Executive Secretary Father Jerome Siciliano said the church still commends government efforts in battling acts of terrorism. However, he says lawmakers should have been more discerning in setting provisions in the anti-terror law.
Yung kanya kasing pagkakabalangkas, medyo flawed, tsaka vague. Baka naman yung pamahalaan din na maging terorista sa taong bayan. So we don't want that to happen.
Siciliano also found it unfair that they are being accused of violating the separation of church and state. Palace Chief Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo recently said that the church's pastoral letter influences state matters. Siciliano said it is a church's duty to ensure the community's welfare. Church leaders also see ABS-CBN being singled out after Congress denied its franchise renewal bid. Baclaran Church Rector Father Ino Cueto also cautioned against the proposal of some lawmakers for ABS-CBN to sell the network.
Nakakatakot din ito dahil isang usapin nito ay parang an indirect way to silence people.
As for the actual SONA, the House of Representatives is already busy gearing up for the yearly tradition that's going to happen on Monday. But this year's installment will deviate from tradition as health protocols will be strictly implemented. Ria Fernandez with a story.
Only state-run radio television Malacanang or RTVM will be allowed entry at the Batasan on July 27. RTVM Executive Director Demik Pabalan said the President's report to the nation will be aired through the state media People's Television Network. And unlike the President's holo speech this month, which garnered criticism for allegedly being edited, the SONA this time will be aired live and as is. Also returning at the production's helm is Director Joyce Bernal.
Hindi po edited, verbatim po. Kung ano ho yung events na nangyayari, ilalabas po ng RTVM.
The number of attendees will be limited to ensure social distancing. Only 25 House lawmakers and a few of their support staff will be permitted to attend the morning session at 10 a.m. and the address in the afternoon. Senators and some Malacanang officials will also attend physically. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles said that the President will deliver his speech in a chamber separated from guests.
He will be addressing the nation from the same podium, but for the safety of all members of Congress and the employees of the House. He will be delivering his SONA in a chamber that will not be filled by the legislators, officials, and dignitaries that usually attend this function.
Invitations have also been sent out to the usual guests such as Vice President Leni Robredo and former presidents. Although they have yet to confirm, attendees have to undergo RT-PCR swab test for COVID-19 this weekend before being allowed entry. They also have to go through rapid tests on the day of the event. Minimum health protocols will also be imposed, such as the wearing of face masks and face shields. Shaking hands with the President when he arrives and finishes his speech is prohibited. Live performances are also not part of this year's SONA, and the national anthem will be pre-recorded and sung by children from different parts of the country. Pabalan also said that they have prepared Malacanang to be the President's alternate stage in delivering his speech in case an emergency happens that will make Batasan not conducive for the upcoming address. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
Now, Bayanihan 2 in all likelihood will be the first measure to get passed once Congress opens next week. That at least is according to House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Joey Salceda. According to the lawmaker, the Senate might be able to pass Bayanihan 2 in third and final reading. Recall that last month, the upper house approved the measure on second reading but adjourned without giving it the final nod. Salceda is pegging the measure's budget to be at 140 billion pesos to beef up the country's COVID-19 war chest. Salceda also stressed that it's time for the Congress to tackle charter change as it's been lingering in Congress for 5 years now. Delaying discussions to next year, he says, might be a little too late. Critics question the timing of discussing Chacha.
There's been at least 5 years already of time spent really on tackling. So I think there is a sense of inevitability that the House will tackle the changes to the charter.
Okay.
Because that's next year is too late.
The Makabayan Bloc, meanwhile, has asked the House panel on legislative franchises to allow plenary deliberation in ABS-CBN's franchise. Bayan Muna Party List Representative Carlos Zarate said that it is the right of every House member to express their opinion through a plenary vote. For Zarate, there's no compelling reason for the committee to reject the network's franchise bid. We'll pause for a short break, but when the big story returns. Despite the anti-terror law already taking effect, an 11th group of petitioners, headed by former Supreme Court justices, wants the measure stricken down. And rumor mongers might have just found a new purpose as the country's new contact tracers. But how does one qualify? Find out when the big story returns. I'm Jess De Los Santos, and you're still watching The Big Story. Another petition challenging the legality of the anti-terrorism law has been filed at the Supreme Court. The persons behind them being former High Court justices. Marian Enriquez tells us more.
The 11th petition challenging the constitutionality of the anti-terrorism law has been filed before the Supreme Court by retired Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpio and former Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales, together with law experts from the University of the Philippines. The group sought a restraining order against its implementation, saying it curtails constitutional liberties and transgresses the principle of separation of powers. In an 86-page plea, the petitioners asserted that the Anti-Terrorism Act is outrageously vested with powers greater than what the Constitution has given the President. In a statement, Carpio said that the newly signed law reinstated arrest, search, and seizure orders of the martial law era. Meanwhile, UP College of Law Associate Dean J. Bakal noted potential abuse from law enforcement personnel, citing recent instances involving the police.
The track record of the government when it comes to the implementation of laws like this has not really been very good. That kind of record does not really generate much confidence.
But National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon insists there are enough safeguards in the anti-terrorism law to protect the rights of the people.
If surveillance is done without order of the Court of Appeals, it is punishable by 10 years imprisonment.
However, Bakal argued that such safeguards are remedial in nature. With nearly a dozen petitions filed against the anti-terrorism law, Bakal said this proves the range of terror raised by the controversial statute. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
And these are the other big stories today. Rappler CEO Maria Ressa pleaded not guilty to a tax evasion charge before a Pasig City court. Ressa was charged over accusations that Rappler falsified tax returns and did not pay over 200,000 pesos in taxes. The Justice Department has indicted Ressa and Rappler Holdings for 5 counts of tax evasion back in 2018, 4 of which were eventually filed at the Court of Tax Appeals. Another business has fallen prey to COVID-19. Popular family entertainment center Kidzania, Manila will officially close its doors to the public on August 31. In a statement, Kidzania said it will struggle to operate in the new normal due to the ban on mass gathering and children going to public places. And government revenues overtook spending for the month of June, prompting a 1.8 billion peso budget surplus amid rising costs due to the pandemic. This trimmed deficit to 560 billion pesos. However, foreign direct investments in April slumped to its lowest level in nearly a year to $311 million. This is down nearly 70% from a year ago as weak global prospects temper investor sentiment. COVID-19 cases in the country jumped to over 72,000 today with over 1,500 new cases. This brings active cases to 46,803. 90% of these are mild cases. Nearly 1,000 of the new cases come from the National Capital Region. Casualties from the virus are still at single digits, bringing the total to 1,843. Total recoveries are now over 23,000 with the addition of 342 new survivors. Philippine Red Cross Chairman and Senator Richard Gordon says he won't be surprised if cases surge to 100,000 in the coming months. Gordon said that this is expected due to continuous testing. He added that the Philippine Red Cross now has 36 machines for COVID-19 testing and they can now conduct up to 8,000 tests a day.
As we test more, makikita natin marami talaga nagkakaroon ng COVID. Kailangan siguro gawa ng more stringent measures on quarantine, yung mga pagpasok ng mga lalo tayo mag-ingat because pagka lalaganap ito, lalo tatagal itong debilitation ng ating economy.
gossip mongers as contact tracers. It may sound funny to some, but for a regional police chief, this can help the government fill the gap in the lack of contact tracers in the country. Camille Samonte tells us more.
The country is still short of 87,000 contact tracers, admits Interior Secretary Eduardo Año. This despite already deploying some 69,000 personnel.
And we are ready actually, upon the enactment of Bayanihan 2, we will initially recruit 50,000 new contact tracers, the individual person. Alam mo, sa bilis ng pagdami ng ating mga new cases ngayon, we need the people to step forward if they have close contact or have been exposed.
But the Central Visayas Regional Police Office has something else up their sleeves to plug the gap: the Chismosa Brigade or gossip mongers. The proposal came from PRO7 Regional Director Albert Ferro, who said that the gossipers who know the latest in their neighborhood might be helpful in gathering data for the government. He did not explain though how a chismosa can qualify as a contact tracer. Barangay Captain Carlito Sernal of Addition Hills in Mandaluyong is hesitant, as gossips normally result in quarrels among villagers.
Ang kinakatakot ko lang dito nga po, yung yung discrimination dun sa taong nagpositibo, kasi baka since na mga chismosa itong kukunin natin, buong pamilya na nila chinismis na, magkaroon ng problema, mag-away-away.
For some residents, it could bear both positive and negative effects in their community.
Pwedeng oo, pwedeng hindi. Kasi syempre kung kabisado nila yung mga information, pwede sana. Kaya lang kung pure chismis lang, parang hindi yata tama.
Okay lang ma'am, kasi yung mga chismosa, yan lang ang nakahatid ng mga balita sa may COVID sa kabilang barangay. May mali talaga, pero laking tulong rin yan sila .
The World Health Organization said the contact tracers should be engaged in the community and should be trained on transmission, prevention, and control measures against COVID-19. DILG previously submitted a proposal to the IATF on hiring college graduates with medical and criminology-related courses as contact tracers. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
Coming up on The Big Story, BuCor has presented death certificates of 9 high-profile inmates who died from COVID-19 to dispel theories regarding their death. And U.S. President Trump shifted his tone and urged Americans to wear a mask. This and more when The Big Story returns. This is a big story, and I'm Jess De Los Santos. The Corrections Bureau is denying allegations of body switching and death certificate for sale. That's following the death of at least 9 high-profile inmates in Bilibid. And to show proof, the Bureau released photos of the remains of carnapping convict Jaybee Sebastian hours before he was cremated. Marlene Alcaide with the story.
To dispel doubts about the death of high-profile inmates in Bilibid, the Bureau of Corrections showed the death certificates of the 9 convicts who have succumbed to COVID-19. The BuCor also showed photos of the remains of kidnapped for ransom convict Jaybee Sebastian hours before he was cremated in Panteon de Dasmariñas in Cavite. The photo shows a man in cadaver bag. He has tattoos on both of his shoulders, similar to that of Sebastian. The Bureau has also confirmed that convicted drug lord Amin Imam Boratong has died due to cardiorespiratory arrest brought about by the coronavirus. Boratong was the operator of the notorious Shabu Tiangge in Pasig City, which was raided and demolished in 2006. The other high-profile inmates were identified as Francis Go, Jimmy Yang, Benjamin Marcelo, Zhang Zuli, Jimmy Kinsing Hung, Eugene Chua, and Ryan Ong. The BuCor explained that it immediately informed the relatives of the deceased inmates, but there were instances wherein they could not reach the family of the convict.
Kasi ang essence po is yung time. Kaya nga po isa yun sa mga nakita namin pwede nating baguhin o i-adjust no po. Kagaya po ng nakita namin, baka kung sakasakaling magkaroon pa tayo ng mga ganyang problema, magkaroon na tayo ng third party, no? Third-party witness, not necessarily po kamag-anak.
NBP hospital officials assures the public that they are doing their best to save sick inmates. In fact, out of the 344 inmates and BuCor personnel who tested positive for COVID-19, 320 have recovered, while 21 have died, including these high-profile inmates.
Intervention na ginagawa ng ating Directorate for Health Services ay effective. At yun po yung sinusulong natin hanggang ngayon.
Pag nag-duty po sila 7 days straight, ma-include din yung mga magagandang nagawa nila. Hindi lang po mga nurses natin, kahit po yung ating mga custodial, no? Marami pong nag-positive.
Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara reiterates that COVID-19 has also become a problem in jail facilities across the country, wherein 2 to 3 inmates die every day. But with the reported death of high-profile inmates in Bilibid, Guevara says it is prudent to ask the NBI to conduct an independent probe into the matter.
So many stories, so many theories have been swirling around na parang dinidispute na ang ikinamatay niya ay COVID-19. And also, for the benefit of the BuCor, to dispel any doubt na meron ngang any anomaly, then we thought it proper and prudent to request the National Bureau of Investigation to step into the picture.
For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
Police officers arrested the founder of KAPA Community Ministry, Joel Apolinario, after a shootout in Lingig, Surigao del Sur. One of Apolinario's prime followers was killed on the spot, while another was wounded in the encounter. At least 23 other people were also arrested in the operation, while numerous high-powered firearms were recovered. The group was allegedly involved in large-scale syndicated estafa for setting up the KAPA investment scheme in General Santos City, Sarangani, and South Cotabato.
Sabi ko sa kanya, yung lolong Salvador, yung karoon sa martyrer, and sino ang mananagot sa akin? Yung dalawang namatay, at saka isang wounded. Siya, hindi niya inutusan, hindi siya bumili ng ganitong pagkakasiragang baril, at hindi niya inutusan yung mga tao niya na makipagpatayan.
The MVP group of companies expressed interest in tapping new opportunities in certain sectors to address concerns amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Shaila Francisco tells us more.
With agriculture, health, and education being the 3 sectors badly hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, the MVP group of companies will invest in these industries to help address the country's needs. Speaking in a Business World Forum, Chairman Manny V. Pangilinan said they are now in talks with the Education Department and private schools in providing connectivity, devices, and learning management systems. He also suggested the use of CCTV for distance learning.
The delivery system based on satellite, and it covers every nook and cranny of the archipelago of this country. So theoretically, we can put the learning processes nationwide. No?
But transitioning to digital learning is still a concern, says Pangilinan, as it may financially impact private schools, which will fail to generate enough revenues for paying teachers. The tycoon says blended learning might be the better option.
We're assuring the government that we're with them in terms of that principle of no learner left behind, right? We don't want that. We ourselves should make an effort.
As for health, Metro Pacific Investments is developing a full range of telemedicine platforms for hospitals, including a device for vital signs to prevent misdiagnosis. They are also working on cybersecurity risks in the hopes of making the platforms operational in 2 to 3 months. A children's hospital and other specialized facilities are also in the pipeline.
That's important to us, where you could deliver primary care. Our hospitals are mostly tertiary care, but we need to address the primary care right there and there at the grassroots.
In agriculture, there's now a plan to build a greenhouse in 2 areas in Luzon. An MVP unit might be created as well to focus on the agriculture sector.
We'd like to operate a bigger greenhouse. We have a property of around 21 hectares in Cavite and another 7 in Bulacan. So we'd like to try that. That's owned by Metro Pacific. So we want to build a greenhouse.
While commending the government's initial COVID response, Pangilinan said there's a need to enhance contact tracing efforts, which might include pushing for a national ID system. But should this take long, he suggested requiring telcos to register prepaid subscribers for data, provided that privacy concerns are addressed. Shaila Francisco, BR1 News.
These are the other big stories happening around the globe. China condemns an order from the United States for its consulate in Houston, Texas, to shut down in 3 days' time. Beijing says this is an unprecedented escalation of its recent actions against China. And there's been a shift in President Donald Trump's language. He now encourages Americans to wear masks. That's after previously downplaying the virus's impact in the country. The U.S. remains as the epicenter of the SARS-like disease with almost 4 million cases. No contact, no problem. A restaurant in Tel Aviv, Israel is raising the bar when it comes to takeouts amid the pandemic. To keep up with health protocols, the Go Noodle restaurant installed a system of lockers which acts kind of like a vending machine for ordering customers. There are no chairs, tables, nor waiters in the store, and food is served in compartments for the customers to collect themselves. As COVID-19 forces many businesses to shut down, the owner of the innovative noodle restaurant says they would need to adapt if they want to survive. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on 6 channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Jess De Los Santos and we are One News. Good evening.